And have time for a motion too.
Whereas guardians ad litem are expected to be impartial and use objective evidence. In the event of an objection by a parent to the judgment of a provision, a provision for replacement of a guardian ad litem to protect the ability to prevent abuses and arbitrary and capricious decisions.
Without the long wording, what you're asking for is you want to provide for replacement of GALs at the request of either of the parents.
Yes, if they're willing to pay for it. Because if a guardian ad litem is making an objective decision, that decision should be found by the next one. In the case where the issue at hand is whether or not the religious upbringing of a child is consistent with abuse, and if I believe, which is what I believe is this particular argument, if that is abuse, another guardian ad litem will say yes it is, and life is simple. But if
so let's have a discussion at that point if people understand it.
Go.
Any further discussion of that question? We should have some. Somebody have other people have suggestions.
Agreed.
You want to provide for, it sounds like it's a, we do have things like this in some situations for judges, for example.
Yes. If I may speak just for a moment.
Yeah.
If the decision, see, the whole idea, this great phrase I learned when I got into government, is arbitrary and capricious. A judge isn't supposed to make a decision that's arbitrary and capricious. Another judge should come to exactly the same conclusion. Well, using that logic of guardians ad litem, if you have a guardian ad litem whom you object to, and you say, redo, the redo procedure should actually come up with exactly the same result.
Right.
And so, saying
what do you do in a situation where you have a, no, the logic is understood, I think, by everybody, but, and certainly by me, but would you mind just to go further? What would you do if one of the people objected? So you have a person who say, no, I want a new guardian ad litem. What would you do if the other one objected and said, no, I like this one?
I don't care. If any party objects, then you need to have a do-over. Otherwise, you have the potential that a decision is arbitrary and capricious. If one person says, I want it, the other person says, I don't, the guardian ad litem who was doing a good job, who was fair and even, has no risk because their decision was based on objective evidence.
Right, and so the next thing would be that you would have anybody randomly saying, oh, I can go on with this indefinitely by throwing out.
Ask for one. Ask for one.
Just
One
one
is
for you.
sufficient.
One.
Because if you end up in a situation like Mr.
Okay,
Vandenberg has
okay.
Gotten stuck in, there is massive billing, massive return to court, and the guardian ad litem with judicial immunity has the ability to keep, keeping him on the treadmill for billing. Every time they go to court, they're billing him.
So no, you're arguing the point that I think most people are not disagreeing with you on. We're trying to get to a better phrasing or a simpler phrasing. The phrasing that you're looking for really would be a recommendation that we bring legislation to provide that a GAL may be replaced one time by the objection of a single objection of one of the parents on a one-time basis.
And happily put that in for each of the parents. So if one parent goes out, asks for a do-over, the other parent doesn't like the other result, they can ask for a do-over, but each one can only have one. But I'm happy with that because that says, you know what, by the time you get to the third one, there ought to be some consensus.
That's a good way to do it.
I see a problem.
So back to the beginning, when we're in the case all over.
In any case, we would. If we were to recommend this, it would have to go through that hearing process in future, and all that. It wouldn't certainly be. But it's a question of whether this is a way of expressing what we consider to be a significant problem. Not that
It's a very issue. We had on the Dion petition, they kept on the GAL because Dion didn't trust, and then also the Dresden issue and Johnson petition, that was one of the many issues was that he didn't want to work with the GAL.